the showrunner of the Lanterns TV show for the DCU, in an interview, just basically confirmed a lot of my speculations on Lanterns and why so many people completely and utterly overreacted to the initial teaser trailer. Like I said in my previous video, I feel very vindicated because this gives me faith that this will probably be a really, really good Lanterns project, a very good Green Lantern show. And we have so many possibilities for the future, especially if this show does in fact do well. We have so much new information about the show, when it takes place, what the general part of the show is going to be, what we could potentially see, and even talks about the effects and how the constructs will be placed in it. We got just the right amount of information to hype us up for Lanterns and to kind of get the naysayers to at least take a step back and now finally wait for the show to come out, hopefully before casting their judgment again. He even addresses the green that people were complaining about at the end of the previous teaser, which I, to an extent, understood. But I also said it was a teaser. We're probably going to get more in the actual show. Either way, we have a good bit to go over and discuss from these comments, so let's just jump right into things, because I am genuinely excited for when this show comes out in August. Before I get into what was actually said, let's just take a quick look at Aaron Pierre's new image from Lanterns. This looks really cool. Coming out of the smoke, carrying his lantern as it looks like he just took it out of his backpack. Probably being either in the past or in the present of the show when he's about to face off against somebody, perhaps towards the end of the show in a big final fight. We also got another look at Kyle Chandler, Hal Jordan, just pointing his ring towards somebody he was interrogating like we saw in the trailer. But now onto the actual comments, because we learn a good amount of what the Lanterns is supposed to be. But let's go over one quick big thing that is going to make Lanterns interesting and also implies into something that I was kind of expecting, but not in the way we were getting right now. And that is the fact that Lanterns is going to be in two separate timelines with a 10-year gap. And the story of the first season of the show is going to unfold across two separate timelines. One set in 2016, which is where we see Hal training John for the first time, and the other is going to be in 2026, the present day, after the events of the Superman movie. So this fully confirms a couple of things just based off of that. One, when Hal said that he was the only human in the Green Lantern Corps, that wasn't just a joke or a jab at Guy Gardner. This was a clear fact. John, in the show, is the second Green Lantern of Earth, the second human Green Lantern, which shows that in the 10-year time gap between when John Stewart became a Green Lantern in training and is now most likely a fully fledged, experienced Green Lantern that is most likely off-world most of the time with the rest of the Corps, that is when Guy Gardner became the new Green Lantern stationed on Earth, with Hal and John gone for space stuff, or Hal is in fact retired. And that's also why John is around during the events of the Superman movie, or even mentioned. That is something that we really do have to talk about. It is a very nice thing, because now we're basically going to be going the Arrow route from the CW, where in every single season, pretty much, every episode had to coincide the events of one particular episode with the constant ongoing and moving flashback of Oliver on the island to try and coincide with certain aspects of said episode. And for the first and second season, it was done masterfully. And then it depended depending on the season and the storyline for Arrow, but that's besides the point. Lanterns is taking that approach, at least for its first season, to showcase Hal and John's growing mentor-mentee relationship, their different views on life, and being a Lantern, and then we're going to have the present-day timeline, most likely with John Stewart doing some other case. The small-town mystery is going to be in the past, and that is going to be building up to John becoming a fully-fledged Lantern, and in the present is going to be John as a fully-fledged Lantern. How the plots are going to intersect, I am not sure. But maybe the first half of the season is going to be in the past, and the second half is going to be in the present, following slowly John for his whole thing. That might be the case. But also a bit more information on the past aspect of the small town mystery. The reason they are in this town is because Hal thinks there's some extraterrestrial threat in the town. So, okay, makes sense. We also got information about Sinestro. We basically got confirmation a while ago that Sinestro was going to be in the show. But Chris Mundy explains a bit more in detail on Sinestro in Lanterns, saying that obviously in the canon, Sinestro is the big bad. The thing that interests us is the idea that Hal was trained by Sinestro, which is the thing in the comics. Sinestro did train Hal. They were friends, they had a good relationship, and that's what makes their growing rivalry and animosity towards each other hit even better and make them such great hero-villain pair. He goes on to say that in the coaching tree, we're very interested in what gets passed on. What doesn't? How much is human nature? We talked a lot about programming and parenting and training. What did Hal take away from Sinestro that was good or bad? So that's going to add an extra layer to Hal's character as he trains John. Most likely trying to take the good that he got from when he was trained under Sinestro, but also most likely trying to avoid any of the obvious negatives and bad habits of Sinestro, because this is most likely going to be when Hal is basically just going to be the first person to ever train a lantern for himself. So he's definitely going to probably fall back on Sinestro stuff. Okay, I lied earlier. It's him and Sinestro were friends in the comics. I believe it was Tomar Ray that primarily trained Hal Jordan as a lantern, but sometimes canon is kind of wibbly wobbly sometimes in retcons and stuff. But anyway, this is seemingly going to be a major focal point for the show's plot. The small town mystery of Hal and John trying to solve things, and John being trained by Hal, while also having Hal deal with what he took from Sinestro in his time being trained under him, what basically became second nature, and what things he didn't notice that were bad that Sinestro drilled into him that he might be trying to push onto John, or trying to avoid when training John, and that's going to affect his training of him, and how the relationship ends up potentially getting strained, but then resolved at the end. And this could lead into a future confrontation with Sinestro, and the season finale might end up ending with a big Sinestro plot. Or hell, it might even introduce the Sinestro Corps, the Yellow Lanterns. Because that's another thing Chris Mundy mentioned, is the fact that there's going to be more lanterns in the show. Because he said the show is designed to be a multi-season series that leaves a door open for more lanterns to appear as the story expands. Whether that be more Green Lanterns like Jessica Cruz, Kyle Rayner, Simon Baz, or Joe Mullen, that is yet to be seen. Obviously, if the show does well, we'll definitely get green lights for more seasons. But even still, it shows that the name Lanterns wasn't just chosen on a whim. They want to introduce more lanterns outside of the Green Lanterns. They'll be the main characters, but we'll see more lanterns in the show and have them be a focus. So that is an interesting thing to really consider. Mundy also talks about the powers of the Green Lantern, saying that it's a power of creativity to a certain extent. You're thinking on the fly. It's the power of whatever your brain decides will solve the thing in front of you. So you try to have fun with that. There are times where we use it as a funny thing in the middle of a situation, and then there are times where we use it practically. There's also a mention of how the budget and everything when it comes to the rings is kind of limited. Sometimes it's going to be fully sci-fi and some big action set pieces, but sometimes it's going to be a lot more limited. So, which honestly makes sense and pretty much what I kind of figured, because while I would have loved to see a full-blown Space Odyssey, lanterns floating around, constructs going around all over the place, for the story that's being told here, and for it being the first season of a Green Lantern live-action TV show, it makes sense for them to conserve the budget for the bigger moments and to have much smaller constructs in there. And the way he mentions how they want to utilize the constructs to be fun, and to really play into the idea that the rings respond to your imagination of what you think of on the fly. As he mentions comedic bits, so we are going to get some brief moments of levity. Perhaps while John is still learning how to use the ring, something will pop into his head that he accidentally creates, and it could be something completely silly or seemingly pointless, or something just outright random that could just save his ass at some point. Who knows? And that is kind of the beauty of Green Lantern. Their abilities and constructs are based off their imagination. It could be something as simple as making a giant sphere for a force field, a giant mech, or a giant poodle. Who knows? There are a whole bunch of things and endless creativity you can do with a Green Lantern ring with all their constructs. And so, making it for, at least for John, a fledgling Green Lantern to still learn how to make the constructs and control his imagination in an interesting way, that is probably where they're leading towards it, and why they're going to be limiting all of the constructs, at least for these small town segments, and then going to go all out perhaps for the cosmic side of things. Last big thing about these updates from Chris Mundy is the fan reaction to the teaser trailer and the lack of non-stop green imagery. And this is what he had to say. The aesthetic of the show, It's supposed to be very grounded and real, so we're shooting practically in places. We're not heavily green screen. It's not like Dayglow in its presentation of anything. I think Green Lantern fans will not feel like we've somehow made a brown show of their green comic at all. It's very much we're in the world, and then when we use the constructs, they're what people would expect them to be. So he's basically saying that the fans pretty much overreacted to a teaser trailer because they were being very conservative with what they basically showed, and that once we see it in the show, we will know that, okay, yeah, they did throw in the green when it was necessary. At least for right now, what it seems like, because with a lot of the images we have seen, especially from the teaser trailer, it seems like that's going to be 10 years ago in the past during 2016. So the very super grounded stuff is most likely going to be in the past, with the limited constructs for the case that they are trying to go for when it comes to Hal and John's training. And so when we see them use the constructs, it's going to feel like it fits. It shows that Monday is very aware of the people's backlash towards, the trailer. I mean, Grant Morrison, one of the goats of comics, literally responded to the trailer about how disappointed he was with the lack of green and whimsy when it comes to the Green Lantern show, to the point where the showrunner and writer had to basically apologize, but also have to explain that that was never the intent in the first place. So yeah, everybody did really overreact. We do have to wait for the show to come out before anything else happens, before we have to discuss anything else. But the last thing I do want to bring up in this is that Chris Money does explain how they wanted to try and give characters like John Stewart and Hal Jordan, these characters with such boundless history, a human feeling, and try and do something new and add something to it. How challenging it is and how scary it is to try and take these two beloved characters that you want to adapt properly, but also want to do something new with in this type of setting, like with Hal being older, is something that is a risk. It's something that is a big challenge, but something that he does want to, that they did end up doing in surprising ways, and that's how things in the show ended up going. I, like many others, were kind of concerned of why Hal Jordan had to be introduced in his 60s, basically being a much older and grizzled Green Lantern instead of, a lot younger. But at the same time, I am okay with it to an extent. The only downside is the fact that majority of the major Green Lantern stories are centered around Hal Jordan, so it does feel like you're going to put those onto John and then potentially Guy, or most likely Kyle Rayner when he's introduced at some later point. It all really depends. But yeah, that's really all of the new updates we got on the Lanterns TV show. We got the confirmation that it's going to be 2 different timelines, one in the past, one in the present. We got confirmation that Guy Gardner became a Green Lantern between this timeline in the 10-year gap right after John becomes a Green Lantern, which fills in that whole misunderstanding about, John being the second human Green Lantern. We get more stuff about these visual effects. We get understandings on why certain creative decisions were made, and thoughts on the fan backlash. Needless to say, yeah, this whole interview and stuff with Chris Mundy basically confirms a lot of stuff I had thoughts of when the first teaser trailer came out, and a lot of people did overreact. Now, obviously, there is going to be some concerns, and I am going to acknowledge them. The show could still turn out to be very bad. We have no idea how good the show is going to be, how well they're going to balance the 2 different timelines, and how they're going to go about them, how they're going to go about the grounded tone with the Green Lantern stories. There is still a lot of uncertainties because we still haven't gotten a full-ass trailer. We had a teaser that just had a bunch of flashes of stuff from what looks like 10 years ago in 2016 for the show. So we still have a lot of stuff to think about and consider before we jump way into the Green Lantern stuff and if this is going to be good or bad. We have to wait till that first episode comes out at least to give initial thoughts on it. But I do think at least episode 1 is going to be very conservative with its use of the rings. And then we're going to see them use their rings a lot more frequently as the plot begins to unfold. Oh, something I did not catch upon my first read-through of this stuff when it comes to the Green Lantern news. Chris Money did say that we are going to see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner a couple times throughout the season, most likely in the cuts to the future, and he is going to be delightfully obnoxious, so that is going to be perfect. Give me an obnoxious Guy Gardner. I love it. I freaking love it. I cannot wait to see him interact with John and Hal. It's going to be perfect. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below on what you think of this newbound information for the Lanterns show that's going to come out in just 3 months from now, so that is going to be crazy. and I cannot wait for the actual full trailer to break that down whenever that comes out. But until then, we still got Supergirl coming out in a month, and Clayface coming out in October as well as stuff like My Adventures with Superman coming out in a month now, also with its third season. We got a lot of stuff to look forward to when it comes to DC, so I'm very hyped and excited for more coming in the future. But let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Once more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos when it comes to DCU content or just DC Comics content in general. Let me know what you're excited about and what you'd like me to talk about in the future. With all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day. You know, with more confirmation about the cosmic side of things, that means the likelihood of getting Chip the Squirrel Green Lantern in this show is even more likely. Give me Chip the Squirrel, it would be legendary.